Hello and welcome to another video on my YouTube channel. My name is Joris and today I'm here with a video about how it all started and where we are now. And how it started, well, I'm just obsessed by numbers. I was since I was a little kid. In school I was really good in math. I always had 9.5 or 10 on 10. So that was really the thing that I loved to do. I loved calculating things. And then later, my father, he came home one day when I was around 9 years old with an old 286 from his work that he was able to buy there because it was already 3 or 4 years old. And they were replacing their 286 with 486s. And on that computer, there was a program, Lotus, I believe it was. And it's more or less like Excel, but it wasn't that handy, in fact. But you could type in the numbers and put the numbers behind the companies. So I started typing in the numbers then. I'm still really good at typing in numbers really fast just because I started when I was 9. And every day I did that because there was one page in Het Laatste Nieuws that was dedicated to the stock market. And yeah, I always took that page and I entered the numbers in every day. So my mother knew where she could find me when she couldn't find me directly. And later, my parents also started to buy the Financiële Economische Tijd on Saturdays because then it was a really thick paper on that day, and I just devoured that newspaper. I really loved it. And my parents really loved that I read that newspaper because I didn't like reading at all. I didn't read any books. But then one day I found a book about the stock market, Winnen op de Beurs, from Roland van der Elst. It was written in 1987, and I think it was in 1991 that I read the book, so I was 10 years old then. And I found it in the library and I just read through it and I thought, man, that Roland van der Elst is a really smart guy. And how he explained everything, yeah, I was just hooked. In that book, there was also a table about compound interest, just like in Winnen met aandeel from 1996. There was also a part dedicated to compound interest. And yeah, I was hooked. So from that day on, from that time on, I was hooked on the stock market. And Winnen op de Beurs, I only read that book once, and I'm really sad that I can't find the book anywhere. I already tried to find it, but I can't find it anywhere. Winnen met aandeel, I have 2 copies of that book, but it are both reworked editions, so I don't have an original edition, but the original edition I certainly read at least 4 times, and the other ones that I have, yeah, I reread them continuously. Last year I read the last edition, and probably this year I will reread it again. And in 1995 I bought my first global fund, and I still regret it to this day that I bought that global fund. I didn't sell it with a loss. I sold it with a slight profit. I was bigger in the green at the beginning of 2000 before the dot-com crash happened. But in hindsight, the total expense ratio was really too high. It was 3%. And back in the day, that was a normal total expense ratio for a bank fund. But yeah, in hindsight, I should have started investing in other things then, but I didn't. So yeah, I was 14. I didn't do my research well enough. I knew a lot about the stock market, but I didn't knew about ETFs back then. So that was a big mistake that I made. There were already ETFs around back then, or sort of. There were certainly cheaper funds around then. And I sold because in 2005 I sold it because we knew we were going to buy our house in September of 2006, and I already sold it because I thought that in 2006 the markets were going to implode. But I was wrong. It wasn't in 2006, it was in 2008. But still, it didn't matter that much. I sold with a slight profit, and I was happy about that. In 2008, my wife and I got married, and in 1996, when I was 15, I bought my first stock. It was Real Software on the ESDAC. The ESDAC started in 1996, and I remember really lively, in fact, that I entered the bank. It was back then it was a Gemeentekrediet where I bought the stock, and I entered. My mother was still parking the car, so she entered about 2 minutes after me, and she sat down in a chair, and I was waiting in line, and then it was my turn. I went to the the booth, and I said to the woman, I want to buy Real Software. And she said, what? And I said, yeah, it's noted on the ISDAC, and I want to buy that share because I think it's going to go up. And she said, yeah, but you are way too young. You need to have your parents or something to sign off on it. And I said, yeah, I brought my mother, and I pointed to my mother behind me. And she said, okay, come in. So we went into her office, and she said, where can I find it? I said, hey, it's here in the newspaper. There is the name, Real Software, that is the easing code. So she typed in it, and she said, okay, I can find it. And she said, how much do you want to invest? And I said, yeah, it's I earned 45,000 Belgian francs for my job that I did in the holidays. So I said, I want to invest 45,000 Belgian francs towards Real Software. So she said, okay. She put everything in, and I bought it. My mother signed off on it, and 3 weeks later, I came in with my mother again into the bank, and I went to the booth, and I said to the lady, I want to sell my Real Software shares now. And she said, whoa, now already? You haven't got a lot of profit then, or what? And I said, no, I have 60% of profit. And she was like, damn, you are really lucky. And I said, yeah, I was lucky. So that's why I was also selling it for 60% profit after only 3 weeks. I wasn't planning on selling it so fast, but that's what happened. And I sold it, and the good thing was back then, it was the stock market was working with quinzaines then, so I could immediately buy into my next share that I bought, and that was Tessenderlo. That wasn't a big success. I kept it until I think in July of 2019. I sold it just before we moved to Switzerland, and that was a dividend paying stock. I really liked it. It had a real nice dividend yield, but the dividend was actually 90% of the profit that I made from that stock. So it wasn't a wild success, but still I made around 5% yearly with that stock. So it's not bad, but it's not great as well on the stock market. And I kept investing regularly, but as I said earlier, we bought a house in 2006, and in between 2000, the end of 2005 and the September of 2006, I sold 90% of my shares, and yeah, that was because we couldn't loan all the money that we needed to buy our house. But I don't regret it because 7 years later we sold the house with a huge profit. So it was also money well spent. In 2007, we started putting money in the market again. And as you know, then in 2008, there was a financial crisis. So the money that we put in, we saw it decline sharply, and that hurt a bit, but I knew it is going to go back up eventually. So it's only 1 year, a year and a half that we were putting money in towards the market. So we just needed to keep up and keep putting money into the market. And when it got back up, we will have gains pretty fast actually. And that is what happened. The market crept back up. It went really slowly, so it took a while. But then in May 2013, we moved to a bigger house as we were expecting our second child. And the house where we were living in, it was too small for a bedroom for a second child. So we sold 70% of our stocks, but we also used up all of our savings, so we needed to build our savings up again before we could invest again. And this is an important thing. Here I did do the smart thing, and that was first building up our saving net, so our savings net, or how do you say that? So our nest egg, before we actually started investing again. So it took a while before we started investing again, and it was about 2 years and 8 months of not investing extra money into the market. So only the 30% that we had on the stock market was still on the stock market, and it was increasing. So we we weren't complaining at all, but I was a bit annoyed that we weren't putting money towards the stock market. And after 2 years and 8 months, we said, okay, we need to start investing again, because now we have, I think it was around 30,000 euros on our savings account. I said that's a good saving net. So now we can start investing again. And my wife said, yeah, but I want to start investing in something else than stocks, in companies, because yeah, she isn't that risk tolerant as me. And I said, okay, it's good. I will look for something. And I read a lot, and I stumbled upon ETFs that paid out dividends as well. And I said, hey, that's interesting. And I looked into them all. But the thing is, I hated that most of them already started a while ago and had already paid out a lot of money in dividends. And then I missed that. So I was looking for another one that needed to start. And on that time, I found information about ISPA. I don't know exactly where I read it. I think it was in de Financiële-Economische Tijd that I read that iShares was coming out with an ETF on dividend stocks, and that it was going to contain 100 dividend stocks. I said, hey, I have to look that up. And I went onto the internet and I found the information. I found these in code. And yeah, from that moment on, we knew, okay, we are going to put 300 euros in every month, but we are going to save up the 300 euros and invest only in the beginning of the fourth month. So the money of the first 3 months we were going to put in the fourth month in the beginning. And yeah, as you know, ISPA or SDGPEX is paying out on the first, the fourth, the seventh, and the 10th month of the year. So halfway in April, it would pay out its first dividend, and that was what it's going to do. So on the second day it traded, we bought ISPA, and A few days later, we already received our first dividend. So we bought 34 shares of ISPA the first time, and the cost was 13.16 euros, and it gave us a dividend of 6.89 euros. Recalculated, it's 7.58 Swiss francs, and you will see this number appear in one of the next videos that I make. I think it's going to be the next one, because I'm already preparing this video for over a month with the evolution of our dividends. But as you know, my computer broke down, so I wasn't able to make it, and then I had to do the updates of the ETF and the U portfolio last weekend. So now I can make this video, and then probably I will do the follow-up video with how our dividends are evolving. So the first dividend that we received for our ETF portfolio was only 7.58 Swiss francs. And we kept this scheme of putting 300 euros into the stock market till July of 2023. So we were already living in Switzerland back then. We moved in 2019, and in July 2023, we were looking forward to buying our house. So in September 2023, we bought our house here in Switzerland, and we knew we needed a plan for investing into ETFs. And you know how our ETF portfolio is meant to be built up. I will go over it in the last slides of this video. And instead of slowing down after buying our house, I actually went crazy, and every month I started investing the absolute maximum that we could do. So you know, I'm a budgeter. I have an extensive budget, so I know every month what we have left, and I just took everything what we had left at the end of every month and put it towards the stock market. My wife was saying, hey, you shouldn't do that. We also went down with our savings, so we should put it more towards our savings. But I said, yeah, the last time I was really annoyed that we couldn't invest for 2 years and a bit. So now I wanted to make up for that period, and actually that was a mistake. I shouldn't have done it. Because in July 2024, it was obvious that we, or I should say I, had to tune it down a bit so that we could build up our safety net more quickly, as we had the bad luck in the beginning of 2024 that our car broke down and that we had to replace our car. And in those 6-7 months, we had actually a huge financial stress on our family, and that wasn't great at all. I was also doing my videos here, and while I was making those videos, I sounded upbeat, but in fact, it was more stressful than it might seem from those videos. So, lesson learned: do more what you did before, and not what you have done in 2023 till 2024. So, always aim more to rebuild your safety net, and then go for investing more. If you want to invest, just do the bare minimum, don't do the absolute maximum. So what we do now is we do the 3A pillar here in Switzerland, because that's really important for our pension. Because in Belgium they are constantly changing the rules of the pension. Our pension there, when we go to mypension.be and we check what we are going to receive in the future when we go on our pension, it's always going down. So that's not great news. So we know that we have to save here as much as we can. So we do the 3A pillar thing, and that's for me and my wife both 1,210 Swiss francs per month. It's actually 33 cents less, but I rounded it up a bit. So 1,210 Swiss francs per month that we set aside to be able to do that. And then we also invest 900 Swiss francs in our Swiss quote account for ETFs. We also invest 200 Swiss francs into my U account, and those 200 francs come from my 250 francs that we save every month for me, and the 250 Swiss francs that we save for my wife, so she can do what she wants with those 250 Swiss francs. And yeah, my 50 francs, they are piling up as well, but I want to buy a good home trainer in the future, so I'm saving up for that. And then we also do 300 Swiss francs for our kids into CHDVD, the best ETF here in Switzerland, and that money goes into our Swiss quote account as well. So that's a bit annoying that the CHDVD is in our Swiss quote account as well, but we don't want to have two Swiss quote accounts because that doubles also the costs that we have for our accounts there. So in total, it's 1,400 Swiss francs that we invest ourselves and 1,210 Swiss francs that we reserve for the 3A pillars. So in total, it's 2,610 Swiss francs. Plus, we also reinvest all the dividends that we receive. And it will remain like this for a long time to come. And for me, that's no problem because I think this is absolutely correct. We don't have financial stress anymore, and that's really what we want. So now we are good. And then in the beginning, I know I still needed to say this. We know this is not much for some. So 2,610 Swiss francs is absolutely nothing for some people here in Switzerland. It's peanuts, but for a lot of people, it's a lot of money. So we know that we are lucky, my wife and I, that we are able to invest as much as we do. So yeah, it's we work a lot, but yeah, I like seeing our portfolio grow and grow and grow. And when I say that I like seeing our portfolio grow, I mean with the amount that we invested. So okay, last month our portfolio went down with over 3,000 Swiss francs. That's not funny to see, but on the other hand, we invested again more than 900 Swiss francs last month, and that is just the most important thing to me. And in the beginning of this year, EMHD, the long anticipated ETF from our core satellite portfolio that we have in mind, finally joined our ETF portfolio. And this was in fact the final step in our process for making our ETF portfolio. So buying the first shares of EMHD with the US dollars that we received for the past year and a bit, that's really so a good moment this beginning of the year. And normally before the end of this year we will be able to buy another tranche of EMHD, so we will have piled up 500 US dollar before the end of the year again, and we will buy for sure again. Yeah, I think it's 21 shares of EMHD that we have, so hopefully we can add another amount just like that at the end of the year. And we get US dollars from VHYL, GLDV, and XYLF. So XYLF is a monthly paying dividend ETF, or income ETF, I should say. I promised to call XYLF an income ETF, so with this I said it, XYLF an income ETF. And VHYL and GLDV, they pay out quarterly. So GLDV, normally we should receive a dividend this month, and then next month it's VHYL, it's time, and EMHD as well. So it's only a small amount, around 4, 5, 6 US dollars that we receive every quarter, but it's adding to the total amount, and we are getting there faster and faster and faster. So I will keep track of that as well. And when I buy the next tranche of EMHD, I will say exactly how long it took to buy the first tranche and then how long it took only to buy the second tranche. And this is then our goal for our ETF portfolio. So SDGPEX should come down to 35% because, as you know, until July 2023, we were only investing into SDGPEX, so it was 100%. Then we aim for GLDV to be 25%, VHYL to be 10%. I need to still discuss with my wife whether or not we are going to put this at 12.5 and this at 22.5%. But as you know, there is a plan behind it because we want to have an even distribution, a monthly distribution of our dividends that are coming in. And then it's important that GLDV is at 25%. So VHYL 10%, LDG European ETF 10%, FLXD also a European ETF but with the UK in it needs to be at 7%, XYLF at 7% and EMHD at 6%. So where we were at the 26th of April of 2024, that was here. So after about 8 months of investing in other ETFs, we were at 82% in SDGPX, 4% of GLDV, 6% of VHYL, LDG was 2%, FLXD was 4%, XYLF was at 2%, and EMHD we didn't have anything. And then on the 21st of February, we finally bought EMHD and it made up almost 1%. It wasn't completely 1%, but it's rounded up in Excel. So it's 1% for EMHD, XYLF 2%, FLXD was 8% back then, so a bit higher than 7%, LDG 4%, VHYL 8%, GLDV at 9%, and SDGPX was 68%. And where we are now, that is, SDGPX is making up 65%, so I'm not adding anything anymore to SDGPX for the moment. GLDV and LDG, we added quite a lot this past few months, so these ones are up to 6% and 10%. VHL is at 8% right now, so I want to buy next month, or this month already, I want to buy a bit of VHYL, I think. But maybe it will be GLDV. I still need to check it. I also said it on the update of our ETF portfolio. Then you have FLXD at 7%, so where it needs to be. And this one will be bought in July when SGPX gives another around 700 euros of dividend. And we need euros to invest into FLXD. So with the dividend from SGPX that we received past month and the dividend that we are going to receive of FLXD and LDG in July or in June, we will be able to buy quite a lot of FLXD in July. And then XYLF is making up 3% right now, and EMHD is still at a little bit less than 1%. But yeah, that one is going to build up as we build up GLDV, VHYL, and XYLF in our portfolio as well. So there you have it. That's where we are right now. So hope you enjoyed this video and see you on the next video on my YouTube channel. Bye.